Well, good morning, kids. Welcome to the show. Man, has this 2012 started out crazy or what? Oh, but it's good. We phenomenal interconnectivity, phenomenal awakenings. People are finding awareness where they haven't had any before. You know, and it's just symbology. The end of a year, the beginning of another, it's just symbology. But because it's our chosen symbology, we as a human race, then we get to pack a little extra into it. You know, the old year went out with a bang, and the new year has been building, building, building this sweet, intense energy in all who are sensitive to the planet and her person. And it's just living proof. We're awakening. We're coming back to it. We're finally getting into ourselves, the real self. Not the one that we've superficially created in order to deal with this corrupt world, but the one that lives here, the one that is true and pure, simple and sweet, and loves everybody and everything. Wow. So I've come here today as part of all this to share with you the grandfather's blessing. Now, you know, there's certain essential times in life where we receive these little blessings from others, which is really our self-blessing ourselves. We just create it in the form of others and it comes to us, because that's how we need to see it to help us waken up. It's kind of funny how we do all these things, and we do them all together and aren't even consciously aware of it. But that's becoming so now. We're becoming consciously aware of our inner connectivity, that's within us, that makes us no longer alone. Because we realize we're a part of the larger cosmic makeup. That spirit is something that happens natural. It has a reality all of its own that is much different than this one that we've perceived ourselves to live in. That spirit is here in functional form at all times and moving the dynamics of this 3D world in order that we can get by a little better and know that we're blessed. That no matter how restricted we seem at any given time, how rough it's got, we're out of a job, we don't have money to pay our bills, etc. You know, those tricky things, the psychological stuff that they use to grind us down and keep our focus away from ourselves. So we always focus on the need, the individual, oh my God, person that is alone, that has to pay its bills. And so what does it do? It focuses on the money, which takes you away from the heart. Got to get a job, got to go to work, got to do this, got to do that. Well, it's time for us to change all of that. To let the focus be where it should be. To consciously see the movement of spirit in our heart. To awaken to that. And then, of course, see it in all these others who live here with us. And baby, this is how we let go of our enslavement. This is the grandfather's blessing, which comes from grandmother too. She's first and foremost in our heart. And grandfather's just there helping her along. There's many grandfathers. Many. There were grandfathers here on this continent before any other race of people set foot upon it. I mean, I'm talking a long time ago. And these, in terms of spirit, the spirit reality, have been the watchers that have kept an eye on things here. Because this little place called Turtle Island, North America, South America, Central America, this little continent, as we call it, is the place of our origination. It's where human beings began this gigantic experiment in life and living, and devolved down into the depths of the murk, the muck, the pain. You know, it was here where we began that. On this continent. Of course, it was much different then, and it appears to be now. But the grandfathers, those that help these energies remain pure within us, despite the overwhelming nature of some of the psychotic behaviors we've chosen to go through. And they are psychotic. These grandfathers are the brotherhood, what we call the brotherhood of the heart. They're ancient souls whose wisdom is beyond compare, whose experience to us is almost nearly unfathomable. And they're not just energies. These are beings and persons, a dozen or so, whose lives rim the perimeter of your heart and of this life in general. And they're here to see that it's played by the rules, because we've chosen this divided way, and there's opposites and opposition. So they make sure the game pieces remain in place. They make sure that nobody's cheating, jumping ahead of others when they shouldn't be, taking their place out of turn, and so forth. I mean, this is metaphorically speaking, of course. But they keep the essence of life on the ground and living within us, as we're stuck on the ground, going through the living. That's the energy behind your life. That's what keeps you alive. That's what activates angels and other energies and beings to come and help you move forward despite the momentum that's trying to pull you back, you know. Well, we're just about ready to burst off the shackles of the opposition, that which has kept us so enslaved, and our focus on the material things, the material needs. Got to go hunt for food. No matter how primitive you live, you're stuck with this. And there's times of deprivation and starvation. It comes, it happens. You know, we've had it pretty easy here on this Turtle Island, this American continent, for quite some time now. And that the goods and services that we need just keep rolling our way. And so we really haven't had to do with much deprivation. Even when we're broke, there's a way to eat here. There's always food for your table, provided you're willing to jump through a few hoops and be a nice little slave, of course. But we've had it pretty easy. But our deprivation has been of heart. We've lived in this world of money, which is heartless. And we've watched as its cruelty has taken over here, you know, and numbed us and dumbed us down to the point where, when it really comes right down to basics, that's what matters in life here, is this money, this way of accumulating that which we need to get by here. Superficial. But to live in this world, to be a part of it, we've had to take on that heartless nature of this money. All it cares about is making more of itself, whatever that is. And mostly it's been used as an instrument by those who would consider themselves elite to enslave the rest of us. It's slavery without walls and without whips and chains. Those are psychological whips and chains now. And this is the year, through the grandfather's blessing, that we throw off the yoke of that money. That we finally begin to move beyond the idea of value and wealth. Because we're all here living in abundance, no matter where we are or what we're doing. And it may not seem that way to the starving children in Africa and Asia and places like that. But here's what's about to happen for you. Through the nature of this grandfather's blessing, this brotherhood that have kept our heart alive through all of this long chain of cruelty. We're about to release our need for the habitual things in life. Eating, drinking, those kind of things. It's not that they go away. We're still empowered to do these things. But what happens here is the needs dissolve away. You can choose to eat when you want to smoke a cigarette if you have to. Snort a little dope, whatever the heck it is you're doing out there. The effect's not going to be the same. You're not going to need these things in the way you have. The little crutches that we've used to get ourselves by in this life, to soothe away the pain and kind of get at least a part of our blessing out of whatever we could get. Food, love, drugs, sex, money, you know. As we become more conscious of who and what we are, and of our divine interconnectivity with this life, baby, we understand, we begin to realize that needs are superficially imposed upon us. That we really have but one need, and that's to remain living in this life and expand our consciousness to the point that our heart opens completely and we are living a full multi-dimensional life, meaning we've thrown off the restrictions of what we see as a 3D reality. And when you move beyond need, there's not much here to restrict you. We begin to become, as we've said before, not this alone person, but this person gathered with the many. This person who is appreciatively a part of the greater whole, which includes earth and sky and all that's in it and around it. We begin to experience life in the greater realms. And so our focus is not so fixed on our needs anymore. These dissolve away. That's just fear. Every need you have is serviced, created by fear. A fear that, I gotta tell you, is superficially imposed upon you, that isn't really your natural state of being. Goodness gracious. You're not afraid of anything. There is no fear. And there's no reason to have it living here any longer. But this is how we supersede the fear. This is how we move beyond it. And you want to dispose of fear. Well, you don't just put it away and say, I won't be afraid anymore, because that fear still exists somewhere here inside. It's still there. So what do? You understand. You see beyond that which makes you afraid. You see the reality of truth. You see the beings, the energies, the powers that are here working with us to keep us alive and going through the grunt world, so that we can come to this place where we can finally take it easy and learn to enjoy the facilities we've been given as a human being. It puts things in its proper place. When there isn't need created, then you choose when to enjoy what you enjoy and how you enjoy it. You see, you're making these conscious choices anyway, but they're on a subconscious level now. They're beneath what you see, what you visualize inside of what you call the conscious brain, the mind. It's more than a brain by a long shot. Brain's just a little functional little computer. That's what it is. It's empowered by the heart. Heart is what you feel, what you know, what you trust, what you are, and what you are becoming. Truth has a way of magnifying itself so that you can see it in exquisite detail. And this is what we're coming to now, today, this time, this 2012, where we're finally beginning our beginning and coming to know what it is we forgot oh so long ago, what we put away, but which has been preserved by the grandfathers and the grandmothers who live inside of us as well as all around us, whom are the greatest caring beings that we could have created. And that's why they exist, because they are our creation and we are theirs. We're together in this. We're joined one with another more tightly than you can ever imagine. But yet, it goes beyond imagination. These people with whom you have such great disagreements, these people who you feel are like just not quite right and you don't want to associate with them, your attitudes toward each other will greatly change as you go through this awakening process, this coming to see and experience the interconnectivity of all life. And when you see this person that you've had disagreements with, whether they've been verbalized or not, they exist. You understand the fear that created them. And you see beyond it. You see the person who's truly there. The noble giant living in that small little human body. Inside of that frame, it's restricted itself there in order that it can go through every exquisite little pain, every little motion and trial of living a life that's separate from life. It chose to experience this the same way you did, out of the purest of love, because it knew this could bring it the greatest of joy and help it expand its consciousness beyond the concepts of cruelty. We were little babies living in a playpen before this happened, before we became human beings. Just little kids. And we had it made, yet we were very ascended beings, we were very enlightened, and lived in pure love. But there was a part of our consciousness that sought to see it better, to deepen our appreciation of it, because there seemed to be some little defect there, that because we hadn't known something that was opposite of love, we couldn't fully appreciate the fullness of love that we lived in. So this was kind of like the thinking and reasoning that went into the creation of this damned reality. It's blessed, really. In which we came to live, where we're like savages, you know, and cruel to one another, because we so fear one another. And fear there might actually be blessings that we could share, one heart to another. I'm not going to take it from that person or that one either. Oh my goodness. You see how it works? And then there came these beings, as we explained before, that consciously manipulated our dividedness and dumbed us down even more, to the point where we could be born and die, like life had a beginning and an end, and a big old grunt session in between, and manipulated our unconsciousness and caused us to be somewhat heartless, some a lot more than others, because some people just can't lose it. It causes them much grief, and oftentimes they don't live here very long because they can only take so much. But they get enough so that when they return home and feel the love, they can appreciate it. Well, babies, this is Grandfather's blessing to you today. That's exactly what you're gaining through this new view that's coming through you, which is really a very old, ancient view. Appreciation for the love that you are, for the dynamic that you've been able to go through. All the dynamics. And man, some of us have chosen some pretty impure paths. And man, we have been cruel to the extreme, but yet that cruelty is superficial as well. There's elements beyond that cruelty that you're not seeing, because you're so focused on the death, the end, the pain, the fear of that, which is what allows cruelty to be here. But when you see the dimensions of people coming and going here, when you understand the joyous love behind that entire movement, and why souls would choose to participate in war, then you understand the nature of the sharing of a greater blessing. You see beyond the unconscious sphere. You see what's in your heart, because it's there in all of these other hearts that are here working through this dynamic with you. And then you see the superficial nature of the cruelty. You see beyond what you've accepted as fixed reality. And it ain't like that, and it ain't going to be like that anymore. We've come here to share this blessing one with another. Wow. And that's what we're here awakening to today. It's like in your morning coffee, there's consciousness. And whatever you partake in, whatever you do, there can only be an increasing of this consciousness, the seeing beyond the fixed reality, and understanding it's not fixed. It's not rigged. It's a choice we've chosen as a collective group of conscious beings to experience. And when you see that, then you understand the game over. The big "the" in the sunset, and the credits as they roll. And then you know the sun's never going down again, that we live in constant light and purity, that we participate in truth in every moment that we live, that we are love. And baby, yeah, in these surface ways, it's going to change a lot, of course. It is already. Most of you have felt the momentum of it since this New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It's kind of like we've come through a long cycle. And right now, that cycle's come to a fullness of a complete circle. But it's more like a spiral that continually goes upward, not downward. It's a gaining of experience. The fulfillment of the heart. And babies, now, you're going to find out what truth is, what joy is, what love is here to create and express. Now I know some of you are feeling a little panic inside. The fear is really pumping itself up, but your attitude toward it is different. It's not so overwhelming. You just see this as some movement inside. It's a little puzzling. Just let this go by you. You know, you understand what that is. That's the controllers losing control. And they're feeling it like death. Which, remember, isn't such a bad thing. It's a great thing. But this is a living death. It's not a death at all. It's just what the controllers are feeling. It's their manifestation of fear because they're losing control. And you notice, if you look around you, they're really trying to amplify up. Speaking of the darker beings that seem to rule here, the controllers, those that are worked through that way, are really trying to amp up the process, you know, and get us all in a little more literal enslavement, to spread terror and fear everywhere. But they're just doing that to egg us along so that it won't happen. They don't want that to happen any more than you do. It's a show. It's a dog and pony show. It's a way of motivating your heart to come forward before the untruthfulness gets too ugly, and to purify your view of the reality. And as you do that, begin to see through the dimensions, understand the truth of what we live here and why we live here and how we live here. Experiencing that interconnectivity. The rules of the money game go right out the window. Because when you realize and understand we're here to take care of one another, and instead of feeling repulsed by people that have psychotic behaviors that you just can't seem to take, instead of being repulsed by that and creating separateness, you send the energy, the love, you make the motions, because you finally see what they are, for real, to help that person understand a little more of themselves, so they no longer have to be that psychotic being. You see how this works? The more you gain the view from inside of yourself of what's truthfully here, inside of you, outside of you. The more we gain that perspective, the more it is shared. And the better off we all are, and the more help everyone receives. That's just how it works. Because we are more than interconnected. We're like little cells and atoms inside of the greater being. This body, but it's a bigger body. It's huge. And we're all a cosmic part of that. And just like the cells and atoms in our body don't reduce themselves and separate away when we make a movement, they walk wherever we walk. They go wherever we go. They are a part of us. They're automatically and dynamically interconnected with one another, and they're working together at all times to create this form of expression and experience it as a cosmic whole and as each little individual unit. You think those little cells and atoms don't appreciate their function and the beauty of what they've created in you? Why do you think you still live? Because these little cells and atoms are a part of your consciousness. And because they have this deep love and respect for what you are, what we've created together as all these little units of consciousness. Well, you take that concept and expand it outward, and you begin to see your place in the cosmic reality. What's really true here? What's really happening? And yeah, it's going to take some expansion, but you're ready for the experience, or it wouldn't be here happening for you. So I'm telling you, heave ho the fear, let it flow by. Don't fight it, don't argue with it, don't get drawn into it. And if you do, it's no big deal. Just back up a little bit, be loving toward it, be loving with it. Help it to see that fear is a concern, that there's something greater than you that can hurt you. But when you see beyond that thing that seems to be hurting you, you've shared the blessing with that too, consciousness. And it wouldn't want to hurt you at all. Because it's you, you're it. We all are in this together. Each and every living soul, including the deer that come by to steal a little bit of hay in the morning. There's one out there looking at me now, down there chewing on my little bits of leftovers. I don't mind the deer come and eat the hay, but gosh, just don't take it all away. Don't make holes in my little tarp and try to steal every bit of it. Geez, goat's got to eat something, you know. Things like this will be viewed on a different level when we consciously connect and recreate. And God, that's a beautiful little buck. Little three-pointer down here, man. He is a gorgeous boy. And this morning he's not tearing up my canvas. He's feeling a little more mellow. That's awesome, guys. Now we learn to enjoy and appreciate life, no matter what stage you're at in it, no matter how you're living. If you're living in a cardboard box under a bridge, whatever, there's great enjoyment there. There's reasons why you're there, and it's a beautiful place of being. And there's reasons why you're changing and bringing yourself out of that state of being, because time's up. The alarm's going off, the rooster's crowing. It's time to be. I wonder if I can get that boy. Oh, he's gone. Darn it, I should have thought I could have got him on camera, but he's down there playing around the house doing something. Who knows? Deer are beautiful creatures, and I love them. Yeah, and when I was a kid, I used to hunt them. I grew up in a hunting environment where the deer hunt was like a national holiday. And it was the mark of manhood when you finally got your first one. Oh. But babies, we learn to live this practice cruelty. And it's a shared experience. This living on the food chain, oh my God, what a weird dynamic we've created there. Cruelty down through that chain, oh my goodness. But that's not real. This is what you're beginning to understand today. That even that has been a part of the conscious choices we're making continually. That we've chosen to share that experience with one another so that we deepen our appreciation of love when we move away from it. We no longer understand things in those terms and so forth. I quit hunting when I was 21. I'm amazed I was able to do it that long. Because the deer and I are so interconnected. And you know, taking down one of those was like taking down a little bit of yourself. And it's really hard to eat that. Oh man. But understand, no matter what it is you've created in your life, no matter how cruel you've been as a part of this process, in your awakening, there's more than forgiveness. There's understanding of the true dynamics, the voluntary nature of each player in each part of the life that we've lived. There he goes running up the hill. The deer. Somebody came out of the house and scared him away. But in every instance, there's you and the victim, whatever, or victims, whatever, you know, vice versa. It's all voluntary. There's huge nobility in sacrificing. That's why we're having a little trouble giving it up. That each heart has chosen to play the role they're playing here. Each goes through what they've chosen to go through as a part of learning and growing in these spirit ways. And when this dawns on you, when you see it in motion in your life, then you understand enough to forgive everything. And that's the true grandfather blessing of this day, coming through the grandmother's heart, who would have it no other way. We are love. We're here to respect and enjoy it and replace our cruelty with the greatest of caring, because we finally have chosen to learn to experience one another again, to know the fullness of each life that's lived. Wow. It doesn't get any better than this, kids, but yet it does. This is just the beginning point. Now we can expand into the fullness of conscious experience and not just look at the sky, but be the sky and every star that's in it, every planet, every speck of life that lives. It's phenomenal. Babies. So don't worry about what you see going on around you. Activate, do what you got to do to kind of slow down the other process and speed this one up. Do what you got to do. But mainly, focus here so that you can be there and consciously influencing and affecting this reality. Stopping the practices of cruelty all around you by stopping the cruelty in yourself. It's amazing, guys. I love you so very much, because my heart is your heart. We're in one another. It's the greatest order of lovemaking ever created. Babies, we're whole, we're happy, we're heart. Be blessed. Happy New Year. Wow.